it's a clearly unsafe position for the A town to be completely blocked off by one train. Emergency services simply can't get through in the event of an emergency.
It looks like a classroom from the future. Cameras capture lecturers from several different angles, giving students the best view of practical demonstrations. It all makes doing a pharmacy master's at the University of Newcastle a unique experience.
What we've done is use the video conference, but then added into it a demonstration clinical skills unit. So to my knowledge, this is the first which is in the pharmacy schools.
Students can watch from another lecture room or even a different campus.
So all the students, when we put them out on placements, we can still interact with them quite effectively.
Which means no matter where they are, the lecturer can ask them questions. There's also a demonstration pharmacy where students practice dispensing scripts and interacting with customers. Like the lecture theatres, the action that takes place here can be viewed via monitors. The setup cost around $750,000 and it's not finished yet. The university is now preparing podcasts, so entire lectures can be viewed on the internet. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
It's not just the business community seeing funds dwindle at the moment. Charities like the Salvation Army have the tough task of facing more calls for help while trying to find the money to provide it.
Obviously that's our dilemma at the moment, that we actually have more demand for our services because of the tough economic times and probably less of our own resources to be able to apply to that.
Hunter residents donated $1.8 million to the appeal last year, but the Salvation Army hopes to top that this time around and break the $2 million mark.
Every region is given a budget and the national budget is $73 million, and that I think is only a certain percentage of their overall costs.
While today's launch started the business end of the appeal, households will be able to do their bit when the annual door knock begins on May 24th. Meanwhile, John Hunter Children's Hospital was a madhouse today as a team of medical staff donned Alice in Wonderland costumes and held a celebratory tea party, a last send-off before the annual Variety Bash.
So we leave from Sunday at Spears Point Park. As part of our job, we're actually teaching at all the regional hospitals along the trip as well.
Bridget Wild, NBN News.
Win or lose, it didn't worry too many today. People were just happy to get away from work, with Upper Hunter residents revelling in their annual half-day off. With more than 8,000 punters expected at Scone Racecourse, some were smart enough to grab the early seats, while others strolled in their favourite frocks. On the track, it was business as usual for Australia's top jockeys as they prepared for the $110,000 main event.
Been up riding track work early every morning, been up working Old Newton's rings, using the cup today and just getting ready for the big day.
Recently crowned Best Country Race Club in the state, the venue is looking to next year, where it'll host the Inglis Guineas, already worth $500,000 and rising.
They're holding races throughout Australia, which if you are an Inglis graduate, you can receive a bonus prize money of $50,000 or $100,000. Now, if those bonuses aren't won during the year, they're all jackpotting into a race, and that race will be run here at Scone Cup Day next year.
The prize money means Scone will be on par with big city races, but today at least, all eyes were centred on the feature. Here are the closing stages. Dale Spriggs rode home the winner for Paul Massara, the trifecta a shade under $1,500. For a club about to play one of the biggest matches in its short history, off the pitch, the week has been a shocker. A threatened boycott of the Ulsan game after a feud between the Players Association and the FFA over ACL match payments was averted after a meeting between Jets players and boss Constantine, although the matter is still not resolved.
Con sat us down yesterday and made it clear of where it was and where it lied, and we left that meeting in a great bunch sort of thing, and the boys were happy with the way the meeting went with Con yesterday. So.
On the pitch, it's business as usual. Fabio Vigneroli will make the trip, and Ben Kantorowski returns from suspension into the midfield spot vacated by Gold Coast-bound Adam Griffiths. Hero of the Jets' last ACL outing, Sean Rooney, is staying behind on compassionate grounds. The Jets need only a point to progress to the next round, where the stakes and prize money are higher, but they'll be playing to win.
We want to score goals. We want to make it harder for them. We don't want to finish the game with a nil or draw. We score a goal, and obviously it makes it a lot tougher on the other sides.
And after a disastrous A-League campaign, success in the ACL is crucial.
It's a big game, and every step we keep taking, it gives the club and everyone involved with the club more credibility.
Blake Doyle, NBN News.
which will deliver housing for allied health professionals to ensure that we could provide the diverse range of health care that is required for the Upper Hunter Valley.
Flanked by family and friends, Rod Cheney completed his epic stroll between Coburn in South Australia and Wallsend this morning. For the past 29 days, he's been walking to raise awareness of depression, saying the disease has taken a heavy toll on his family.
Back in 2007, lost a brother, Michael, and about 15 years prior to that, lost an uncle. I've got family members who are living with depression, and I've got 6 children, and I thought, I can't sit around. It's time to do something about it.
Rod believes his country to coast walk for depression will make a difference and could even save lives.
With Michael in particular, I had a little what if I understood depression a little bit more, and would he still be here? So I thought I'd get out there, spread the word, get community awareness, get people familiar with the signs and symptoms that's out there for depression.
As well as raising awareness, Rod collected more than $10,000 for the Black Dog Institute, his tin, or in this case bucket, being shaken until the end. And Rod's children say he's returned a changed man. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
The timing of this injury was a real sore point for Donny de Groot. The striker strained his hamstring a day before the club was due to fly out, but disappointment for the Dutchman meant opportunity for others.
We've got a lot of players who are hungry in our team, not only for us to do well in this game, but for their livelihood and for them securing a contract with an A-League club.
Former Broadmeadow Magic forward Joel Wood is travelling as an 18th man and could be promoted should fitness fail Fabio Vignaroli. That leaves Sasho Petrovski to front the Jets' attack, and doesn't Ulsan know what he's all about after scoring twice to beat Hyundai 2-0 in March. Fast forward 3 games and second is far from settled, with the top 2 teams progressing through to the next stage. The Jets arrive in Ulsan tomorrow.
Our objective is to co-invest with industry in what will end up being a network of stations across the country, co-locating as close as possible with the existing electricity grid, locating as best as possible in terms of access to Australia's biggest natural resource,
It's a piece of land that's attractive to both developers and conservationists. But after a decade-long battle, Tank Paddock is set to be preserved. The 146-hectare parcel north of May is a crucial part of the Green Corridor because it's a transitional ecosystem.
It's where wetlands meet dry forest. So these sort of environments is where nature interacts.
7 years after Newcastle City Council resolved to rezone Tank Paddock, its protection has been secured, with the State Planning Minister signing off on the changeover. However, the fight isn't quite over. The land still belongs to Coal and Allied, but Green Corridor supporters are confident the land will be given to those who can look after it best.
In order for it to be really properly managed for conservation, it needs to be handed over to the National Parks and Wildlife Service and managed for conservation.
Bridget Wild, NBN News.
It's like a travelling circus. We go into some of these little towns for lunch, etc., and it's just like a travelling circus. The whole town's faces light up and we just love doing that. Right. Look, last year we raised about 300,000 for the week, which is fantastic. We get great support from these people and from their sponsors. This year we hope to match it.
The Knights took a nosedive in the surf this morning. On the football front, though, things are just swell. And in summing up round 10, the coach's words were echoed by his charges.
Yeah, I think it's the best we've played all year. Like last week, a pretty disappointing the way we finished the game. We started off real well, but Smithy got up us last week about it.
The rev-up certainly ruffled the Roosters as Gidley guided Zeb Taylor to his first.
And then he found me on the edge and I found myself in a bit of a hole there and I just decided to take him on myself.
5 minutes later, Taylor toughed out a second before this from Captain Kurt, Ben Rogers and Jared Mullen. Mark Tofua tormented, as did Denny Wicks, who used the Heritage Round to take a trip down memory lane. Doesn't he what? The Roosters really should have known better. His second best came last night, but who's counting?
It's a worrying time for international students. An assault last week during early evening near the busy library area, shaking their confidence.
That's frightening, and should be frightening not just for international students, but also for all the student community.
It's the latest in a recent spate of attacks.
We've been having broken noses and people in hospital. We don't want to have any other things, that it escalate to a bigger.
Unfortunately, this is something that's targeted at internationals across the country, both students and other people. Unfortunately, it seems that Australia isn't always that tolerant of differences, and these things sometimes flare up.
While it's not a problem unique to Newcastle, the Students' Association says there does need to be a strong local response, starting with better security.
This is something that somebody has to take very seriously.
We're very conscious of it, and we'll continue to review our security to make sure that it's absolutely the best to suit the circumstances we're seeing just now.
The students are lobbying for better lighting around campus, more visible security patrols and a shuttle bus for after dark. They'll meet with university and community leaders later this month to discuss an action plan.
The Prime Minister inspected the solar setup at Liddell Power Station yesterday before announcing the billion-dollar plan, giving every indication the Hunters' infrastructure will be vital.
Co-locating as close as possible with the existing electricity grid, locating as best as possible in terms of access to Australia's biggest natural resource, our sunshine.
Liddell is mostly coal-fired. The solar panels generate just 8 megawatts of power.
The full-size ones are 250 megawatts, so they'll be 30 times bigger. So basically it's all about demonstrating that this technology actually works at a full scale.
The technology was actually developed at Liddell, but the inventor moved to California, where the world's largest solar plant was subsequently built. The Commonwealth's new facilities would be 3 times the size of that, which means finding a lot more land.
An obvious place to put one at the moment would be like at Munmora, because Munmora is going to be decommissioned fairly shortly. All the electricity infrastructure is already there, but because it's near the coast, it'll be cloudier, so it won't be an ideal spot.
Successful tenders for the new plants will be announced in the first half of next year. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. The theme of this year's Museums Australia conference is work in progress, coincidentally a fitting description for Newcastle's own regional museum. With $8 million in federal infrastructure funding secured, tenders for construction will be sent out in the next few weeks, marking the beginning of the end of 8 years of planning.
Of course, with the Commonwealth money, we have to start building well within 6 months. So well before Christmas, people will see action starting to take place on the site.
Director Gavin Fry says the new location will allow the state's largest regional museum to attract more visitors, while new exhibitions will focus on Newcastle and the Hunters' unique history.
We're very keen to get into the popular culture of Newcastle, things which we didn't cover before, the arts, the music industries. We've got a lot of great stories there, the sporting stories.
Federal Minister for the Arts Peter Garrett today revealed visitor numbers to cultural locations have risen sharply as Australians look closer to home in tough economic times.
This is a time of opportunity and outreach for museums as well.
The conference continues until Wednesday. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
I don't expect that there will be matters of national environment significance that will be critical in this second proposal. I hope that it can be formalised.
It just made everything twice as hard, and I think
probably these kids that do these things don't stop to think of the effect it has.
Sporting a new baby bump, it's family keeping Alison Broadbent busy these days, but her success on the netball court means she's never far from one.
I do a little bit of commentating and also organising some netball clinics, and I'm a mum. I'm pretty much a mum full time, and I enjoy that, and pregnant with my second baby.
Broadbent was one of 12 athletes named in the Hunter Region Sporting Hall of Fame, the only netballer of this bunch and just the sport's third inductee in the program's 18-year history.
Of course, I was involved with the Hunter Academy of Sport a very long time ago, and that holds special memories for me and gave me plenty of opportunities, so that's always the things that count.
A regular member of the Australian team, Alison also won 3 titles with the Sydney Swifts, a Commonwealth gold in 2002, then silver in 2006. A year later, she retired, and for the moment at least, that remains the case.
We'll just see how the body holds up after having kids, and then we'll just get back involved. I've been coaching and I've recently got my level 2 netball accreditation for that, so I'm enjoying that.
Adam McIlwright, NBN News. The walking wounded, Mick Fortier, was on the field for barely 10 minutes on Saturday before his representative campaign for Newcastle and potentially country came to a crushing end.
Just got hit side on and then popped a rib cartilage, which was an old injury, and and I knew straight away that I was going to have to come straight off.
The West Winger is looking at a 3-week absence from club football. For Regan Tanner, it's more like 8, with the Curry lock dislocating his elbow in Newcastle's loss to Illawarra. The reigning Country League champions won 4 tries to 3 to advance to the final.
We were really confident going into that game. We really thought we had a good chance against them, and it just wasn't meant to be, I don't think.
In Group 21, Aberdeen 72, Raymond Terrace 14. A long season already after just 3 rounds for the debutant Magpies, while Scone and Greater Branxton won their matches. 2 points from the bye sees Singleton join Aberdeen on top of the table. Adam McIlwright, NBN News. It's the class of 2009, but the sporting achievements are timeless. Terry Panowitz is every bit the pumpkin picker, a rugby league legend of the 60s and 70s, and he says that's reward enough.
Well, I've already had the honours playing with Maitland and winning competitions and so forth, but it's just like being born again.
A fresh start too for Natalie Ward. Australia's most capped softballer retired after last year's Olympics, but the kids still know who she is, which could come in handy given her next challenge.
I'm doing a childcare course at TAFE at the moment, so that will be my next venture into the childcare industry, so that should be fun, something different.
Ward is just the second softballer to feature on this list. Her sister Linda was the first. Natalie's taken up a different sport now, but don't expect a dual international anytime soon.
Actually, I played my first trial game in soccer and I rolled my ankle, and I've been out for 8 weeks, so I'm not sure about the ventures in soccer.
Football codes fare well in these lists, and 2009 has been no different. Andrew Johns justifies his spot as the world's best ever halfback. He retired in 2007, the same year Singleton scrum half Steve Merrick gave Union away. The Wallaby, one of 3 acknowledged from rugby's ranks. Adam McIlwright, NBN News.
5 weeks ago, Robert Matrevsky applied for a loan to renovate his investment property, only to discover a writ had been placed on his asset by the Supreme Court. In a rare case of mistaken identity, the 37-year-old had been lumped with a $3 million debt which belonged to another Robert Matrevsky based in Sydney.
I was confused why they were keeping this writ on my property. It would have been sold very soon if that was to continue. Yep. And my tenants would have been out in the street.
A stunned Mr Matrevsky from Newcastle made several trips to Sydney, made countless phone calls and incurred thousands of dollars in solicitors' fees to try and resolve the matter.
It's a shame that I wasn't taken serious, where this would have been so much easier if it was dealt with, if they actually gave me the time to actually understand that there is another Robert Matrevsky.
So far, no one has accepted the blame, but Robert's local member is pushing his case for compensation with the Minister for Lands and the Attorney-General's office.
Robert has got the issue of his property removed from the other court matter. It's now a case of ensuring that Robert's interests are looked after.
Property manager Alan Rees says it's a timely warning.
The lesson from what's happened to Rob is very much so when you're in a contractual agreement, you have to make sure that you get your whole name, including your middle name.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Arsonists are again being blamed for a blaze at the Odds Landcare Resource Office. Just after 2:30 this morning, brigade crews from Toronto and Teralba were called to the scene. It took 2 hours to bring the fire under control. The building hasn't been used since it was first set alight last October and is scheduled to be demolished. But Lake Macquarie Mayor Greg Piper says that doesn't diminish the crime.
We've lost a really important resource here and impacted on a lot of volunteers.
Council will now fast-track the building's demolition.
Council is close to lodging a development application for a new facility for them that will be much better than what they could have imagined before, and that will be at Burrigal.
Mayor Piper says wanton vandalism is a huge drain on Council's resources.
The estimate for this year is going to take it close to $500,000.
And that figure doesn't include vandalism to residential or commercial property. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Currently, those living in and around Metford have a choice of 5 trains an hour to Newcastle between 6 and 9 a.m. But if a draft timetable is adopted, the number of trains will be reduced to 1 every 60 minutes. Not enough, according to those who use the services.
I'm catching the train nearly 4 times a week, and just less train services would mean a lot of people miss out on getting to interviews and work.
I'm only just a regular visit here to visit my family. And I'd hate to see that my timetables were shortened.
I've got to go to work every morning, and yeah, it would affect me very lot. And if I can't get to work, can't get money.
The draft timetable is designed to make all train services more efficient by including fewer stops. But Maitland MP Frank Terenzini says Metford Station fares far worse than any other under the proposed changes. He's confident his state government colleagues will listen to the community and retain most, if not all, of the services. But he's urging Transport Minister David Campbell to make his decision quickly.
I think it's a case of the authorities not really knowing how many people do come through these stations. We get hundreds of people a week using Metford Station, and most of them don't drive their cars, they walk to the station. So I think we should have another look at those figures and come to a decision that's fairer.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
A crowded shopping centre isn't the usual place the Samaritans would launch their winter appeal, but this year the charity is using a very public shopfront to highlight its cause and encourage people to donate. A bed devoid of any blankets and nearly empty cupboard each serve as a reminder of what the Samaritans need most.
Recession brings extra challenges for an organisation like Samaritans, and we can't respond alone.
For the first time, the organisation has enlisted the help of children across the Hunter and Central Coast. Over the next 6 weeks, 109,000 students will all take part in the Kids Helping People program.
All the schools in the region are going to help to raise funds and raise donated goods for our winter appeal.
Samaritans has increased its winter appeal target by $50,000 to $200,000, with the need for generosity in the region more acute than ever.
Unemployment has doubled in the last 6 months, the youth unemployment has trebled, and it's going to get worse.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
The Knights are certainly in high spirits, and why wouldn't they be? Second on the ladder, it's the first time Newcastle's enjoyed such a position under the guidance of coach Brian Smith.
If someone could tell me that the comp was going to finish this weekend, I'd feel well satisfied.
Given the extended build-up, the Knights can relax a little, but Smith will soon turn smiling assassin as they prepare to meet the Cowboys with Aku Uate back on the wing.
I think we need to sort of toughen up a bit in our attitude at the back end of this week, because I think we might be in for our toughest game this season on Monday night.
It's a tough game always going to North Queensland, but yeah, we've gelled really well, and we can block out the crowds and play our own game and hopefully come away with a win.
A new look Wes Nkwama and Corey Patterson both trained today and with vigour, yet both were left off the team sheet, but you get the feeling they don't mind so much.
There's no sook, there's no why me or nothing. It's just get out there when the chance comes, and there's a lot of team and not a lot of ego in this group.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News. It might be a terrific tackle, a foot race with flair, or mere muscle that catches the eye of talent scouts. Tries help too, especially ones like these. Parramatta's Rod Reddy and Noel Cleal from Manly are league legends. These days, it's their business to find more of them.
The under-20s is the flagship outside the NRL now, and whilst I disagree with it, I think there should be a Premier League competition, but there's a lot more emphasis is placed upon signing younger guys.
And that's good for these under-15s, many of whom haven't yet been spotted. But this one has. Northern's Jake Lawrence from Camden Haven High, hard to miss and pass.
Oh, there's certainly a lot of interest in him by both us and other clubs, yes. But I believe he's hopefully coming to the Knights.
Newcastle very much considers Northern New South Wales its turf, which is why Knights scouts paid particular attention to the weather-affected Northern Western game, in which the hosts won 26-12. Scouts from the Broncos and the Sharks were also here today, and tomorrow another group of talent spotters will be chasing signatures, many of them after the same one.
Becomes a feeding frenzy at times almost for new talent, yes.
The CHS state side is named tomorrow. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
A team of 100 volunteers maintains the garden's 160 hectares, and they say any funding cut would be an insult to their hours of hard work.
If you find the least rusty screw to do a job with, and it makes it a bit easier if someone like the Newcastle City Council do continue to contribute to the upkeep.
The funding cut proposed in Council's draft budget will affect the Botanic Walk, which Newcastle Council has contributed to for more than a decade.
Our main circuit will not be maintained to the standard we would expect, or at least I think the public would expect, and we may have to consider closing parts of the gardens. We cannot literally manage without that support.
The council's annual injection is a substantial part of the garden's income. The remainder comes from the state government, corporate sponsorship and parking fees. The Hunter Wetlands also stands to lose its $10,000 funding allocation, and both organisations are urging the community to support them by commenting on the draft budget.
It was established to provide a service, a botanic gardens, a botanic collection for everyone in the Hunter, and it belongs to them, and they should speak up for it.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
Ask any yachty and they'll tell you there's nothing worse than trying to navigate through the sand-clogged Swansea Channel. In some cases, boats have to be tipped on their sides and towed just to make it through the shallow waters. Local boat users say the problem is impacting on tourism, with ocean-going races starting to be cancelled and many are mooring their vessels elsewhere. Now, an Aquatic Services Committee linked to Lake Macquarie City Council is trying to change all that.
We've had a dredge designed and costed that could be moored locally and could be employed as and when required to take those high spots away, simply moving them from the places that are shallow to the deep holes in the channel.
The dredge would cost $750,000 and take 26 weeks to build. The committee wants council and the state government to fund the project. And while Robert Coombs agrees a permanent solution needs to be found, he says the group's proposal has come at a time when the state is looking at other methods.
I can inform that Department of Lands are currently negotiating with a company to have sands dredged and those sands be sold.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Organisers of the Dungog Film Festival pulled out all stops to give today's launch a real organic feel. And while Peppercorn Amy and her calf seem pretty unimpressed, thousands of cinema buffs are expected to descend on Dungog.
It's a 100% Australian film festival, so it celebrates our culture and it brings people together, it connects us and it makes us talk and think about what it is we want from Australian cinema.
It'll be the biggest yet in size and star power, with the likes of Matthew Newton, Marcus Graham and Pia Miranda to walk down the red carpet. The director of the film Lantana, Ray Lawrence, will also hold masterclasses, and a script reading program will give writers the chance to test their material.
There's literally stuff going on from the minute you wake up till the minute you go to sleep. There's parties on every night. It's just got such a great atmosphere. It really is a unique film festival.
The festival begins on May 28th. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
Dr Nikki Williams is CEO of the New South Wales Minerals Council and admits she normally addresses much larger audiences on much bigger issues. For example, the Carbon Pollution Reduction Scheme, something that's set to slug the mining giants millions, leading to, she claims, job losses.
The biggest concern is that there will be these major economic dislocations without a corresponding improvement in environmental performance. So all that pain for very little or no gain.
Today, Dr Williams stuck with a similar theme on a smaller scale, promoting innovation rather than taxation.
Businesses operating in this region need to access those technologies and apply them on a day-to-day basis. And we can start with the most simple things like energy efficiency.
The challenge, though, is implementation. A business publication recently found its readers don't know much about being green, and so the push is on to educate and engage through expos like these. It's called Enviro Hunter, bringing together a group of like-minded people showing others how to make their businesses better. In this case, that means more compact.
There are positives out there. There's a potential to save money, to make your business more efficient.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News. He's already known as one of the best tube riders in the world, and Bobby Martinez's near-flawless performance in the final only enhanced that reputation. Opening up with an impressive 8.73, Martinez put the title out of reach with a brilliant 9.73 to claim the highest heat total of the event. The American now keen to share the accolade with his Australian wife.
It's a great feeling, you know. I want to just get home to my wife and family and enjoy with them.
Taj Burrow from West Australia wasn't totally outclassed, but rides of 8.1, 7.9 and 7.3 weren't enough to bridge the gap. His second place finish sees him move to second on the ASP World Rankings.
Yeah, Bobby definitely just selected me to death. He picked those really good, hollow, long ones. But it's fine, you know, to get a second place here is unreal.
After 3 events, Gold Coaster Joel Parkinson remains the man to beat, with Surfing's World Tour moving to Brazil in late June. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. Both sides can progress to the knockout stage depending on tonight's result, but the Jets have enjoyed the better build-up. Ulsan will be without 3 Korean internationals through injury. For the Jets, Lubo Milicevic and Italian Fabio Vignaroli have both been given the all-clear by medical staff. Vignaroli admits he's not fully fit, but is determined to help his new club progress to the next round. Coach Gary Van Egmond says Sasho Petrovski has found his scoring touch during the camp in Korea, as the veteran striker looks to repeat his 2-goal performance against Ulsan in Newcastle. Meanwhile, the news isn't so good for Petrovski's former team. The Central Coast has finished its Asian Champions League campaign without a win, with the Mariners going down 1-0 to Chinese side Tianjin Teda last night. The club has taken drastic action, announcing that foundation players Andre Gumprecht and Paul O'Grady, as well as Nick Rizzo and the Hunter's own Greg Owens, will not be offered contracts for the upcoming A-League season. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Well, we show them all different things about like fluids and flying and liquid nitrogen, and just try and get them a bit excited about it, and then hopefully they'll take home some science lessons.